Now, as we just reported, House Republican leaders may have had a come-to-Jesus moment on the debt, admitting on Sunday, no less, that it's not in imminent danger of bankrupting the country. After all, and this kind of makes us wonder if the past 3 years of artificial fiscal crises triggered by the House were about anything more than placating Tea Party voters and providing endless tax cuts for the wealthy contributors, of course. But don't expect our friends in the GOP to change their views on social insurance anytime soon. With the Paul Ryan budget all but a done deal, Republicans should soon be on record again as supporting severe cuts in programs that benefit the middle class and the poor. And for more, I'm delighted to be joined once again on the show by the Reverend Dr. Susan Thistlethwaite, professor of theology, former president at the Chicago Theological Seminary. Good evening, Reverend Doctor. How are you?
Oh, good evening, John. I'm fine.
I should mention you are also the doctor of Occupy the Bible, what Jesus really said about money and power, and it's great to have you back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, last week, we enjoyed having you here, and you called Paul Ryan's budget on your website a rapture budget. That was on the Occupy the Bible website. What did you mean, Doctor, by calling it a rapture budget?
Well, John, you may recall, and your listeners may recall, the rapture is the radical right Christian idea that all the saintly people are going to be pulled up into heaven and the sinners are going to be left behind. But what I realized is you're meant to take this literally. What they mean is you're going to be left behind in this economy. And John, if there ever were a documentary that proved who's being left behind, American Winter that you just described with your guest did that. It breaks your heart.
Well, many conservative Republicans, and to be fair, some Democrats as well, especially in the South and Midwest, present themselves as driven by Christian values, at least where social issues like a woman's choice and marriage equality are concerned. So let's start off with that. Did Jesus ever once mention gay people or abortion, Doctor?
No, he didn't.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad we could cover that. Now, in your book title, you write, what did Jesus really say and do about money and power? So this is what it all comes down to. Would Jesus have been a free market champion like Paul Ryan seems to think he was?
No, Jesus is not a free market capitalist. Jesus announces his ministry as a government program. He gets up in his first sermon and he announces the Jubilee, the year of the Lord's favor. And that means in the time of ancient Israel, where your state and religion are the same, it's a government program. You forgive debt, you release your slaves, and you redistribute your land. And it's not an option, it's not individual charity. And the people in the synagogue actually realize that Jesus means for them to do that now, not just, in the nice scroll from Isaiah that he just read. And they run him out of the synagogue and up a hill and try to throw him off, which means that they were a little irritated by Jesus' annunciation, we're going to have to do this now. And I do a lot of right-wing Christian radio, because people are interested in the Bible. But people are always telling me, oh no, it's not a government program.
Exactly.
Well, it's a government program. Jesus' annunciation of the Jubilee is debt forgiveness for everybody.
You're exactly right. And Doctor, whenever I try to talk about this myself, I'm always told by some of our conservative Christian friends, well, Jesus said a private individual should help the poor, never said the government should pick my pocket to help the poor. But, what always gets me is that Jesus didn't have democracy. We do. So if we, the people, choose to vote to bring about programs and use our tax dollars to help the poor as opposed to, say, bombing Iraq, isn't that a Christian government? Isn't that a government based on Christian values, taking care of the less fortunate?
Well, I always believe that our religious values can inform the way in which we advocate for different kinds of policies. Dr. Martin Luther King said, your faith is the conscience of your politics. And I think that's our conscience at work. But I'm always stunned that the kind of Christians that are talking to you, John, don't seem to actually have read the Bible. Jesus says, the rich, sell all you have and give it to the poor. Woe to you who are rich. And I've always felt, John, that he got this from his mother. No, seriously, his mother, Mary, when she finds she's pregnant, she goes to Elizabeth and she says, and this is very relevant to the documentary you just discussed, God will fill the hungry with good things, and the rich he will send empty away.
Tragically, I think a lot of conservatives think Jesus was only speaking in metaphor there, and the talking snake is the literal part.
Yeah, exactly.
Before we go, Doctor, we only have another second left, but I'm always curious about the issue of taxation. What did Jesus mean when he said, "Render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's"?
Well, you know what? If it's Caesar's money, it's Caesar's rules. And I think that you've got to realize you've got to fund your society, and you've got to fund it with everybody's money.
Right
and
on.
so, I think your point about a democracy is different is correct, but the values of the Good Samaritan, that endures.
And that guy paid out of pocket for an unknown immigrant's health care.
Exactly.
Reverend Dr. Susan Thistlethwaite, you are so brilliant, professor of theology and author of Occupy the Bible, What Jesus Really Said and Did About Money and Power. Thanks for thumping the Bible thumpers with the actual Bible. It's great to have you on the show again.
Thank you so much, John.
Thank you. And in an age when it may be Christian to not care about the poor, it turns out it also may be feminist to be a housewife. That's coming up next.